Hello, everybody. So I wanted to introduce you to Coquitlam River as part of my Indigenizing Space and Place project for my Introduction to Indigenous Studies here at Wetland Polytechnic University. So Coquitlam River is actually located in a pretty big area. The headwater is actually in Coquitlam, and it goes down through, it crosses Port Coquitlam, and then it goes to the Stolo, or what we know as Fraser River. There's a lot of creeks that are fed into Coquitlam River, so some of them are High Creek or Maple Creek, for example. And Coquitlam River is actually home to a lot of salmon when they come here to spawn. And sometimes you can actually see black bears as well, uh, great blue herons, and a lot of little critters and mammals as well. So I love Coquitlam River because of many reasons. One of them is that I made a lot of family memories. After I came to Canada, I lived in a couple of other cities, and then we settled in Port Coquitlam. So I remember my daughter being 2, and then I will take her to the river um, to throw rocks. We'll have picnics. Then when I had my second son in 2016, I love Coquitlam River because it's a place for where I was able to gain some of my mental health back. Um, Since I had a postpartum depression, so it's a place where you can go there, you can explore nature, you can relax, and it's a good place to. I put placing roots because being an immigrant, sometimes you don't know where you belong or where you're supposed to go or be. And this is just a place that felt like home to me. And I think one of the reasons is because my grandma um, used to live in a place right beside the creek. So then I guess it brought memories back about that place. So Coquitlam River, the area is actually unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nation. And the name actually means red fish up the river. But something kind of interesting is that um, it was a sockeye, not referring to coho. So many years ago, um, it was said that the river had so much sockeye salmon that people couldn't boat, they couldn't canoe down the stream because of that. There were so many fish. Um, there has been some efforts to try to increase the number of sockeye, but they have failed. Mostly because there has been a lot of construction, um, a lot of things that have affected the sockeye salmon that the Kwikwetlem First Nation actually got their name from. Um, their language was actually Hankiminav language, which is shared by a lot of people um, that are co-Salish. And something interesting was that as part of their Salish laws and protocol of the Coquitlam First Nation, they have a sharing of the land with neighbors. And this refers to mostly sharing the land with settlers when they came here, and we came here. Um, Something interesting is that you can still see evidence of them here. Um, in YouTube, there was a video of the consular right here. So it was a consular Ed Hall, and he was speaking during the Salmon Leaf Home Festival. So that festival is part of Hoy Creek hatchery. So they have a celebration when the salmon come here to back to spawn. So usually when the fish that you see in Coquitlam River are usually coho, so they're a little bit reddish, but not as red as sockeye, and sham. And sham have a purplish color. Males have tiger stripes, and the females have they don't have the stripes, but they're purple in color. And their partnerships, they have partnerships with DFO, so Departments of Fisheries and Oceans, Metro Vancouver, BC Hydro, City of Coquitlam, City of Port Coquitlam, and usually the information that you can read in the city website, Coquitlam and Port Coquitlam, they only have a little bit of information. It's more like background information, which I found a little bit sad because they could have mentioned a lot of the projects that they're working uh, in a joint partnership with Coquitlam First Nation. And you can still see the Coquitlam First Nation because they actually have a business park and it's pretty big actually. They hire a couple thousand people. Um, so usually the people that live in reserve, they have two, but they actually have less than 100 people living in there. And so a lot of the people that that they hire are not First Nation. So they have a lot of profitable business and they take pride that they are self-sufficient as well. And in order to increase their language, which is Equimenish, um, there's actually a lot of places right now online where they're trying to increase the number of people that can speak the language. And there's actually videos, explanations, like someone was planting potatoes and they were saying, I'm planting potatoes in the language as well. So they're trying to revive the language even more, which I found really nice. And UBC is also part of it as well. Well, as far as Wetlands First Nation, you can see evidence and related to actually one of their traditions is because they paddle, they make canoes, they make paddle making, and they actually make this canoe and there was a dedication ceremony and they donated it to the Riverview. So they have a healing spirit house in Riverview. For people that don't know, Riverview is a place where people can get treatment and healing for mental health issues or addiction issues. So I think it's kind of nice that they actually made something for people, and it was just and it was made for First Nations people that go there. They have a connection to their roots, and then they can connect to the past as well. So even from just watching the videos or reading the information through the reading, a lot of the things that come up, something that I came across or something that kind of came out really strongly was the fact that about how it's not just about teaching the experience and be done with it. I feel like people made the canoe, then they had the experience of making it, and then they pass it to people, and then they donate it for people for healing, and people for healing can also kind of relate back to their own culture as well, so that it doesn't get lost. And they also actually have art in the utility boxes, which I thought was kind of nice. So then it comes back to feeling part of your culture. And they can always not, it's there for First Nation, obviously, but I think it's nice that people that are not First Nation can also enjoy the canoe. They can see it or they can feel it. And something that was interesting was from the news article from the Renew and Great Review. There was something that Andrea Alec mentioned, and she's the chief officer for the Coquitlam's First Nation enterprises. And she mentioned how the canoe represents paddling as one. And I have this feeling that when you paddle as one, you're not leaving anybody behind. So you're trying to gather everybody together and you're moving forward as one. And a lot of the comments, even from the videos and everything, again, it's how you move forward as one. You don't leave people behind. And I thought that the message was really strong about that. And it is one of their traditions that they have been making canoes for thousands of years, and they still have the skill, and they're still teaching um, younger people part of their tradition. I I thought that was actually really nice. And something that you didn't mention in this slide before, I cannot go back now, was about how for their name for Coquitlam, it refers to the red fish going up the river. So it refers to the sockeye, the salmon, and how uh, people, when they move to Coquitlam, they don't know the meaning or they don't know if there's First Nation or what there is. So when people come to live in Port Coquitlam or Coquitlam, a lot of people complain actually that about this how the river and how the area gets really stinky with someone. Usually, what happens is that the spawners will come back from the ocean. They go back to the place where they were born, where were um, they got out of their eggs. So they lay new eggs and then they die. But when they die, they actually release all of the minerals that they obtain from the ocean. It's kind of like a cycle. So the little fry will come out of the egg, goes down the stream. As it goes down the stream, then it's getting stronger in the ocean. A lot of the minerals get attached to their body, then they come back up and they die, and then they release the minerals. And everything that we see in the forest is actually thanks to the salmon. Because without the salmon, we didn't have a rich ecosystem here in the three cities. And when they bring minerals, they also feed the bears, the eagles, and so many more animals. But a lot of people complain about it because they don't see the cycle that about what comes around goes around kind of thing. In a lot of the videos, it was kind of interesting because one of the interviews, I think, from last week, it was mentioned about how you're using your gift to help others. So we don't recognize the gift that the salmon is given. And I was reading just like last week how there was a hike going up the trail to Coquitlam River, and some people bought houses, and then their backyard is linked to part of the trail. So they don't like people going up the trail, and they want to block the area. So they block it actually. And also some people park on the street, so then they might park their cars. And going back to Coquitlam's First Nation, how they share their land and how they're to be good neighbors, that even people that come to live here, it's not really neighborly to block areas that people enjoy just with nature. So it was kind of interesting to read that too. And it goes back to working together. So the Coquitlam First Nation, they're willing to work together. So we see the river view, they're willing to work with stream keepers, with cities or Metro Vancouver, but people, um, maybe the owner of the houses didn't ask, maybe if the trail has a special meaning for them, they just block it for everybody. Uh, so maybe those people are not being really neighborly. So as I mentioned before, they have a really good traditions, and they're still a lot of them actually they were done before many thousands of years ago. I think it's at least 9,000 years ago, and they're still ongoing, which is really good. So mostly they know how to make canoes, so small boats and paddling. They do a lot of regalia making classes or carving classes. They have sealer gathering. So that's really good. And they're also part in a lot of the around stream keepers or salmon hatchery events. And you can actually hear actually a lot of them, I think hopefully all of them, they have people that from the Coquitlam First Nation, and they do an acknowledging of the land, which is really good. And I believe that they explain a little bit too. And so as I mentioned, so there's High Creek, Maple Creek, and there was Hoyt Creek as well. And if you look at the link on my reference at the end, you can actually hear the counselor talk. And one of the traditions that are actually going back are something called sheep paddocks. Um, so they are when you have a big piece of land, but then you separate it into different areas. So then you have sheep in one area for about, I don't know, maybe a couple of days, so maybe a week, and then you move them to a different area for a couple of days. and after a couple of days, then you move them again to a different area. Um, this is really good for sustainability, so it helps a lot for that. And they also do a sturgeon telemetry project. So sturgeon, I don't know if people know, but they have it's kind of like an ancient fish, and it's really good. So a lot of the Coquitlam First Nation are actually working to increase the population number. They actually do a project for trying to find the animals that the sturgeon feeds on. So then, if they know if there's a lot of animals of that, then that means that the sturgeon population will go up as well, because that means that the sturgeon will have a lot of food. And as mentioned before, some of the traditions, and then they also work a lot with the Coquitlam River Watershed Society. So they do a lot of projects, and then they're actually really involved in sustainability, fishing, and um, environment or restoration. So that's really good. And for habitat restoration, the projects are part of the Coquitlam River Watershed Project. Uh, Mostly the focus is trying to bring up the population of sockeye salmon, because usually what you see in the river, you usually see coho, you usually see sham, and then you also see pink salmon. But right now the population for sockeye is really almost non-existent. I believe there was an article saying how there were only like 3 fish that came back, and usually the numbers will be way, way higher. Um, the thing is, for the sockeye, a lot of the population went down maybe 1970s or 80s, because there's a lot of people might not know, but there's actually a dam in Coquitlam, so it holds the water. So that kind of plumped the population of sockeye. There's also a lot of rock quarries, so mining. So companies will drill holes into mountain or hills, and then they're trying to extract rocks, mostly for building. So a lot of the things that have happened actually uh, have not helped the sockeye salmon. So hopefully, with more projects, it'll bring the population up, and then the Coquitlam First Nation can actually reclaim their name, because sockeye salmon, as mentioned, is actually really important for them. And I mean, that's part of their name. It means red fish going up the river. So I think if everybody works together to bring the population up, I think that it'll be really good for everybody, and especially for the Coquitlam First Nation. So because they had a lot of salmon, so one of the other traditions was obviously trying to catch the fish and for food and things related to that as well. And in the picture here, you can see some drums. And this one I found it on the Coquitlam First Nation website. So that's one of their part of their health and wellness. So it's kind of nice that health and wellness is related back to their traditions, and they treat traditions as really important. Uh, Something that sometimes the modern world doesn't really see as necessary, but kind of nice to see that the Coquitlam First Nation actually take pride on that. Kind of nice. So here's the coho salmon right here, as you can see. I wanted to show it. So you can see the reddish color here. Not as bright as sockeye though. So mostly from watching the videos and doing the weekly readings that we have been making, something that kind of stuck with me was about how First Nations have a strong relationship with their past, and how a lot of it was lost through the residential schools. But the resilience, I think, it's really strong, especially from the Kwikwetlem First Nation. They're really successful. They're self-reliant, self-sufficient. They have a lot of businesses. They bring back everything that they learned from their ancestors to their teaching, and then they bring that to their businesses. So I felt like that was a really good, um, I guess, growing like for them. Um, because that's something that maybe you don't usually read about the positives in the newspaper regarding First Nation. We usually just uh, news only show you the bad things and not the good things. But here we have First Nations that hire thousands and thousands of people that are not First Nations and not related to their specific to the Coquitlam First Nation, but they do a really good job. Um, and overall, I think reading from their laws about how they sharing the land with their neighbors, um, I thought that that was really unique. I actually didn't know that I was going to find that, so I was a little bit surprised. And then I was reading how in Kwikwetlem they were selling the land, I think for $10 or something like that. But then they got the two reservations that were reserved for the Coquitlam's First Nation. I really love how they have kept going with their traditions, like making canoes or the drumming, singing, making regalia, the farming, how they're doing the sheep paddocks now. I thought that that was really interesting, how they're bringing every kind of they're I don't know, I personally feel like they're doing really good. um, and because they really mix everything. They're mixing past with kind of modern style living, I guess. Something that was interesting was that they see salmon as as their brothers and sisters, and that's why they see salmon as so important, and that's why they included a type of salmon in their name as well. Uh, it was really interesting how they one of their higher rules was that they want to cohabit with others really good. Even when I was reading their community comprehension plan, they had posters when they have elders first and younger people or adult people, and then they do kind of brainstorming. And a lot of the stuff that I saw were some ideas were like how to talk elders with young people or people with the First Nations and other people, and not just with people but also with animals as well. So it's kind of like a positive relationship. They're not using anybody. They really want to build stronger relationships with everybody around them. And I personally feel that I will be including the Coquitlam First Nation, a lot of the stuff that I learned into my nature walks. I usually do nature walks with elementary school kids and ESL adult classes. So I usually just talk to them about salmon, the stream, the creek, that's it. But I think use everything that I learned so far, especially with this project, is really nice that I'll be able to incorporate because then I can tell people, oh, the meaning of Coquitlam, the fact that there's a First Nation here, and the fact that they're so proactive into fixing everything, and how they worry about sustainability too, because they're doing a lot of projects with sturgeon as well. So they're trying to fix a lot of things that are around them more locally. So I thought that that was really nice. And so they're trying to make relationships really positive, not making it worse at all. And I think even their way of living, it's kind of related to salmon, kind of like a cycle in a way. Everybody kind of helps each other. Because salmon, when they come here, obviously they feed on other animals, but then they feed, they're the food of other animals as well. And not just animals, but when the salmon come here to spawn, the ferns are able to grow better. And when the ferns are able to grow better, they provide shade to the salmon and other animals. So as you get shade, the water gets cooler, and then there's not a lot of evaporation. So then during the summertime, when you have the small fry, they're able to live better because of that. So I feel like their lifestyle is kind of related to salmon. Everybody kind of helps each other. They're really worried about building stronger relationships, respecting the elders as well, and now with the language as building as well. So trying to revive it more. It's kind of nice, and I like how they are really worried, or not worried, but they're one of their priorities is to give back to the community, and it goes back to how you're doing one of your gifts, and how in the videos, when a lot of videos and a lot of readings are about sharing your gift to others. And in their case, I think restoration, habitat restoration is pretty big. And as part of my gift, I hope that when I do the nature walks, I can uh, teach younger people about the Coquitlam First Nation and mentioning them and their work. And hopefully that will influence younger people, younger kids, into learning more. And the adult ESL classes, the ones that are newcomers from another country, they can also learn more about it, or at least uh, incite a little bit of curiosity, because as immigrants, we don't really know much about First Nations. I think that would be a good way to link and use my gift for something positive. The last slide. So these are my references. So most of them are either the city of Coquitlam, city of Port Coquitlam, the Coquitlam River Watershed Society. They have a really good information. Hoist Watershed Society, the Coquitlam First Nation. They have really in-depth information regarding their activities. So they have newsletters, media. They also have the comprehensive community planning, a couple of articles, and the Museum of Anthropology. And regarding the language, the Ankiminin, the Musqueam Indian band, they were the ones that provide a lot of nice visuals and sound about how to pronounce words. A native land to know um, which First Nation was actually the unceded territory of, and Riverview as well. And so I hope that everybody enjoyed my presentation. It was actually really nice, actually learning more about the area that I actually really love.